Welcome viewers. First of all, I will thank to IEPFA for inviting me here. Today we will discuss about investor awareness. What do we mean by investor awareness? Means investor must be vigilant and knowledgeable regarding the decisions to be made about their hard earned money. दोस्तों हम कुछ भी इन्वेस्ट करने से पहले सबसे पहले क्या देखते हैं कि उसमें हमें रिटर्न्स कितना आएगा. बट अदर फैक्टर्स लाइक उसमें लिक्विडिटी क्या है, लॉक इन पीरियड, उसमें रिस्क कितना इन्वॉल्व है, क्या उसमें टैक्सेबिलिटी आएगी, ये सारे फैक्टर्स इग्नोर कर बैठते हैं और जल्दबाजी में अपने इन्वेस्ट डिसीजंस गलत ले लेते हैं. बहुत बार आपने देखा होगा लोग टैक्स बचाने के लिए ईयर एंड आते आते फरवरी मार्च के मंथ में अपना पैसा इन्वेस्ट करना स्टार्ट कर देते हैं. एटीसी मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल सबको पता है 1.5 लाख की टैक्स डिडक्शन मिलेगी और हम अपने यहाँ टैक्स सेव कर लेंगे. बट कोई भी इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजंस अपनी इंडिविजुअल फाइनेंशियल गोल के हिसाब से लेना चाहिए, ना कि दूसरों को देखकर. तो आज के टॉपिक में हम यही डिस्कस करेंगे कि एटीसी में क्या ऑप्शंस हैं हमारे पास. जो अलग अलग ऑप्शंस हैं उनको हम डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे और 2-3 ऑप्शंस हैं. ड्यू टू टाइम लिमिटेशंस वी विल डिस्कस इट इन डिटेल ओनली फ्यू टॉपिक्स. तो देखते हैं हम आज के टॉपिक में क्या डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. व्हाट टू डू विद योर मनी, व्हाट्स रॉन्ग विद जस्ट सेविंग, व्हेन टू इन्वेस्ट, फैक्टर्स टू बी कंसिडर्ड while making investment decisions, determine what are you investing for, what are the various options for investment, asset allocation, how to plan tax saving investments, best tax saving investments under section 80C along with deductions other than 80C. First, what to do with your money. दोस्तों सबसे पहले हमारे पास जैसे ही पैसा आता है तो हम क्या सोचते हैं कि इसको हम कहाँ खर्च करें, कितना सेव करें, क्या इन्वेस्ट करें. इस रिगार्डिंग वॉरेन बफेट ने कहा है, डू नॉट सेव व्हाट इज़ लेफ्ट आफ्टर स्पेंडिंग, इंस्टीड स्पेंड व्हाट इज़ लेफ्ट आफ्टर सेविंग. मीन्स आपका कोई अर्निंग है, कुछ है, उसमें से सबसे पहले एक हिस्सा सेविंग करना बहुत ज़रूरी है और बाकी के बचे हुए पैसे में से ही अपना खर्चा निकालें. बट जस्ट सेविंग से काम नहीं बनेगा, तो सेविंग के बाद उसको इन्वेस्ट करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. क्यों? व्हाट्स रॉन्ग विद जस्ट सेविंग? जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन. इन्फ्लेशन ईट्स अप योर सेविंग ओवर टाइम. इसे एक एग्जांपल लेके समझ लेते हैं. मान लो आज आपके पास 1 लाख रुपए हैं, उसे आपने अपने सेविंग अकाउंट में डाल दिया. उसमें आपको साल भर बाद क्या मिलेगा? 3 से 4%, 3,000-4,000 रुपये. वहीं उसी के अगेंस्ट में इन्फ्लेशन रेट, करंट इन्फ्लेशन रेट अराउंड 6% है. तो ड्यू टू इन्फ्लेशन योर मनी वैल्यू विल बी डेप्रिशिएट. तो कोई भी सेविंग हो तो उसको इन्वेस्ट करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. उसी के रिगार्डिंग हम देखते हैं सॉल्यूशन. द सेफगार्ड अगेंस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इज इन्वेस्टिंग. स्टार्ट सेविंग. अर्लियर यू स्टार्ट द बेटर इट इज़. प्रोग्रेस फ्रॉम सेविंग टू इन्वेस्टिंग. पुट मनी टू वर्क रेदर देन एक्यूमुलेटिंग और कीपिंग इट आइडल. You work hard to earn money, so make the money work hard for you and enjoy the benefits of power of compounding. What is the right time to invest? दोस्तों हमारा मोटिव सिर्फ टैक्स को सेव करना ही नहीं है. मेन मोटिव हमारा इन्वेस्टमेंट का होता है रिटर्न्स, सो डैट वी में सरपास द इन्फ्लेशन. तो बहुत सारे लोग ईयर एंड पे आके ही इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. बट द बेस्ट टाइम टू प्लान टैक्स सेविंग इन्वेस्टमेंट is at the beginning of the financial year. If an individual start planning for tax saving investments at the beginning of the financial year, then the investment made can multiply over a long period and can help the individual to fulfill their long-term financial goals. So planning should be smartly at the beginning of the financial year. But before investing, we have to consider some factors. What are the factors? Let's see. Factors to be considered while making investment. Purpose. Your purpose must be clear. What are your financial goals? Like आपको घर खरीदना है, गाड़ी खरीदनी है, चिल्ड्रन एजुकेशन एक्सेट्रा. तो इसमें बहुत सारे पर्पस हो सकते हैं, ट्रैवलिंग हो सकता है. तो अपनी प्लानिंग उसी हिसाब से करें, अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट उसी हिसाब से करें कि आपका पर्पस क्लियर हो. सेकंड आता है एज. अ यंग पर्सन कैन टेक मोर रिस्क. ये एक एज और एक रिस्क एपेटाइट दोनों इन्वर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल होते हैं एक दूसरे के. जैसे जैसे आपकी एज बढ़ेगी वैसे वैसे आपका रिस्क एपेटाइट गिरता जाएगा. सेकंड, जैसे जैसे ओल्ड एज में आप जाएंगे आपकी काम करने की क्षमता कम होगी, आपके मेडिकल्स बिल्स बढ़ने लगेंगे. तो उन सबको देखते हुए जितना रिस्क आप यंग एज में ले सकते हैं उतना बाद में आप नहीं ले पाएंगे. थर्ड पॉइंट आता है आपका रिस्क एंड रिटर्न पैरिटी. मोर यू टेक रिस्क मोर यू कैन गेट रिटर्न्स. एग्जाम्पल्स, आप बैंक एफडीज़ में लगा दीजिए पैसा, गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड में लगा दीजिए, तो आपका रिटर्न फिक्स है, आपको 6 से 7%, 8% तक मिल भी जाएगा. आपकी रिस्क उसमें लिमिटेड हो जाएगी. बट अगर आप और ज़्यादा रिस्क ले सकते हैं एट द यंगर एज तो यू में गो फॉर स्टॉक मार्केट एज वेल. उसमें आपका रिटर्न अनलिमिटेड हो सकता है, 15 से 18%, 20% तक भी लोग कमा रहे हैं. थर्ड आता है हमारा फोर्थ टाइप ऑफ फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स बहुत सारे हो सकते हैं, उसको हम अभी डिटेल में ETC के साथ पढ़ेंगे. उसमें लॉक इन पीरियड, लिक्विडिटी एक्सेट्रा बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं. ETC के टाइम हम इसको डिस्कस करते हैं. फिर एक मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है जो बहुत सारे लोग छोड़ देते हैं अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजंस लेते टाइम, दैट इज़ टैक्स इन्वॉल्व. वी हैव टू मैक्सिमाइज द आफ्टर टैक्स नेट रिटर्न्स एंड हैव टू मिनिमाइज द टैक्स इम्पैक्ट. एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं. आज आपके पास ₹1,00,000 हैं, आपने उसको इन्वेस्ट करा, आपको पता है आज कि इस पर मुझे 10% रिटर्न मिलेगा. बट टैक्स कंपोनेंट को हम इग्नोर कर बैठते हैं. फिर जब 1 साल बाद पैसा मिलता है तो हमें उस पर टैक्स पे करना पड़ता है और नेट रिटर्न मेरा 7 to 8% हो जाता है. तो टैक्स को कंसिडर करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. गोल बेस्ड इन्वेस्टिंग देख लेते हैं एक बार. जैसे मैंने आपको अभी पहले बताया, पहला मेरा पर्पस क्लियर होना चाहिए कि मैं इन्वेस्टमेंट कहाँ करना चाहता हूँ, और ये मेरा खुद का स्पेसिफिक फाइनेंशियल गोल होना चाहिए, ना कि दूसरों का. किसी के लिए पर्पस गाड़ी खरीदना हो सकता है, किसी के लिए घर खरीदना, किसी के लिए एजुकेशन. तो अपने पर्पस के अकॉर्डिंग ही इन्वेस्ट करें. व्हाट आर द वेरियस ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट? ऑप्शंस देख लेते हैं. प्रॉपर्टी, इंश्योरेंस, बैंक डिपॉजिट्स, म्यूचुअल फंड्स, गोल्ड, स्टॉक्स, बॉन्ड. ये एक एग्जांपल है, नॉट एन एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट. तो इसके अलावा भी बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हो सकते हैं. बट मेक योर इन्वेस्टमेंट वर्क फॉर यू. दैट इज़ फाइट इन्फ्लेशन फॉर यू, प्रोवाइड इनकम when you need it, be accessible and usable in parts and portion, grow in value and appreciate over time. Proper asset allocation is the answer. What is proper asset allocation? Asset allocation is nothing but just like a balanced थाली. एक थाली में हमें क्या चाहिए होता है? सब्जी, रोटी, दाल, सैलड. तो एक पुरानी कहावत भी है, डोंट पुट ऑल योर एग्स इनटू अ सिंगल बास्केट. इसका मतलब ये है कि हम अपना एसेट एलोकेशन इस तरीके से करें कि एक जगह अगर हमें नुकसान होता भी है तो उसको मैं कंपेंसेट कर सकूं अपनी दूसरी इन्वेस्टमेंट से जो मेरे को वो रिटर्न दे रहा है. तो डाइवर्सिफिकेशन बहुत ज़रूरी है. एसेट एलोकेशन तो हमने देख लिया. अब हम आते हैं हाउ टू प्लान टैक्स इन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. कोई भी टैक्स सेविंग इन्वेस्टमेंट आप करने जा रहे हैं, 80C का सबको पता होता है, तो उससे पहले आप इन्वेस्टमेंट करने से पहले ये देख लें कि 1.5 लाख की ही मैक्सिमम लिमिट है। कुछ खर्चे हमारे प्री एग्जिस्ट करते हैं बिफोर इन्वेस्टिंग। लाइक आप कहीं पे जॉब कर रहे हैं तो आपका EPF ऑलरेडी कट रहा है, तो वो 80C में ऑलरेडी आपकी लिमिट कंज्यूम कर रहा है। सेकंड, आपने कोई हाउसिंग लोन लिया हुआ है, उसका प्रिंसिपल पोर्शन 80C में कवर्ड है। थर्ड, कोई आपने इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम पे कर रहे हैं अपना, LIC ऑलरेडी कवर्ड है। इसके बाद अगर कुछ लिमिट बचती है तो वो ही आप 80C में इन्वेस्ट करें। इसके अलावा भी क्योंकि बहुत सारे ऑप्शन हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट के, 80C इज़ नॉट ओनली द वे टू इन्वेस्ट। तो बेस्ड ऑन योर गोल एंड रिस्क प्रोफाइल, चूज द टैक्स सेविंग investments such as PPF, ELSS, bank FDs, NPS, etc. बेस्ट टैक्स सेविंग इन्वेस्टमेंट्स अंडर सेक्शन 80C क्या हैं, उनको हम एक बार देख लेते हैं विद रिटर्न्स एंड लॉक इन पीरियड। फर्स्ट आता है ELSS, इसको हम डिटेल में अभी डिस्कस करेंगे। इसमें फिक्स रिटर्न नहीं है, नॉर्मली देखा गया 5 से 18% तक ये रिटर्न्स दे रहे हैं। इसका मिनिमम लॉक इन पीरियड है 3 ईयर्स का। फिर आता है नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम, 9 से 12% का रिटर्न आ रहा है इसमें। इसकी लॉक इन पीरियड दे रखा है अप टू योर एज 60, डेट इज़ टिल रिटायरमेंट। फिर आता है यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान्स, इसमें भी प्लान टू प्लान वेरी करते हैं रिटर्न्स, और 5 साल का लॉक इन पीरियड है। PPF 7.1%, और अभी इसमें पहले 8-8.5% तक भी था 2-2.5 साल पहले तक, कोविड के बाद से ये रिड्यूस हुआ है रेट। ये भी अच्छा ऑप्शन है एक लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए। 15 ईयर्स का इसमें लॉक इन पीरियड है। फिर आता है अपना सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना, ये बेसिकली 10 साल से छोटी लड़कियों के लिए पॉलिसी ली जा सकती है, और इसका लॉक इन पीरियड 21 साल का दिया हुआ है। नेशनल सेविंग सर्टिफिकेट्स 6.80%, 5% का लॉक इन पीरियड है। सीनियर सिटीज़न सेविंग स्कीम्स, ये मंथली इनकम प्लान है जो 7.6% का करेंटली रिटर्न दे रहा है, और 5 साल का लॉक इन पीरियड है इसमें भी। बैंक FDs, ये वेरी करते हैं, ये पोस्ट ऑफिस में भी हो सकते हैं। बैंक FDs में ध्यान रखना है 80C में सिर्फ वही FDs कवर हैं जो 5 साल के लिए हो मिनिमम। आप पोस्ट ऑफिस में जाते हैं, वहाँ 1 साल की, 2 साल की, और 3 और 4 4 तरीके की FDs होती हैं। सिर्फ 5 साल की जो FDs होंगी वही इसमें कवर होंगी। फिर इंश्योरेंस प्लान टू प्लान वेरी करेगा, और 3 साल का इसमें लॉक इन पीरियड है। तो आपने देखा होगा इस सारे इसमें रिटर्न्स आपका जितना भी है सेविंग अकाउंट से ज़्यादा आ रहा है। डेट इज़ वाई इन्वेस्टमेंट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट रेदर टू जस्ट सेव। अब हम डिटेल में डिस्कस कर लेते हैं अपना ELSS। ELSS में बेसिकली 2 कंपोनेंट होते हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, ये म्यूचुअल फंड से कैसे अलग होता है। ELSS इज़ नथिंग जस्ट लाइक अ म्यूचुअल फंड, बट डिफ़र ये है कि ELSS में लॉक इन पीरियड 3 साल का दिया हुआ है। म्यूचुअल फंड्स में आप पैसा आज डालो कल निकाल लो, बट ELSS में आज पैसा डाला है तो मिनिमम 3 ईयर्स का लॉक इन पीरियड है। इसमें रिटर्न्स अच्छे मिल जाते हैं 5 से 18% तक, क्योंकि इसका पैसा स्टॉक मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट हो रहा है, डेट्स वाई। और इसको 80C में 1.5 लाख की लिमिट में कवर किया गया है। ELSS funds offer returns somewhere between 5 to 18%. However, the returns are not fixed in equity linked saving scheme and vary according to market performance of the fund. The investor can opt for dividend and growth. What is dividend and growth option? डिविडेंड और ग्रोथ ऑप्शन, इसमें आप अपनी मर्जी के हिसाब से अपनी इंडिविजुअल स्लैब टैक्स रेट स्लैब के हिसाब से ऑप्ट कर सकते हैं। डिविडेंड ऑप्शन आप चूज़ करते हैं तो आपको हर साल डिविडेंड आपके बैंक अकाउंट में आएगा, उस डिविडेंड पे आपका टैक्स लग जाएगा। आपके नॉर्मल टैक्स स्लैब के रेट के हिसाब से जो भी टैक्स आपको पे करना होता है, मान लो आप 10% में आ रहे हैं तो 10%, 20, 30 जो भी है। अगर आप ग्रोथ ऑप्शन लेते हैं तो डिविडेंड आपके बैंक अकाउंट में नहीं आएगा, वो री इन्वेस्ट हो जाएगा और आपकी कैपिटल अप्रिशिएट होना शुरू हो जाएगी। बट कि जब आपको ये लास्ट में पैसा एक साथ मिलेगा तो ये एग्जेम्प्ट होगा या टैक्स लगेगा। जब आपको एक साथ पैसा मिलेगा 36 मंथ के बाद मिलेगा, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन टैक्स लग जाएगा अंडर सेक्शन 112 ओवर एंड अबव द अमाउंट ऑफ 1 लाख रुपीज़। आपको 10% का टैक्स देना पड़ेगा। फर्दर इसमें ऑप्शन में आपको कुछ सिलेक्ट करना है, डिविडेंड और ग्रोथ, तो सबकी रिक्वायरमेंट अलग हो सकती है। बहुत लोगों की नीड हो सकती है कि मेरे को रूटीन में कैश फ्लोज आता रहे, तो वो डिविडेंड ऑप्शन ले सकते हैं। किसी को रूटीन में कैश फ्लो नहीं चाहिए, लास्ट में चाहिए एक साथ, तो ग्रोथ ऑप्शन ले सकते हैं। ELSS के बाद आता है हमारा नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम। NPS आपने दोस्तों बहुत सुना होगा, आजकल काफ़ी चल रहा है NPS, लोग लगा भी रहे हैं। NPS गवर्नमेंट ने क्यों शुरू करा था उसका बेसिक दे देता हूँ थोड़ा। 2004 में जब पेंशन बंद की गई तो एक न्यू पेंशन स्कीम लेके आई सरकार, जिसमें शुरुआत में सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयज़ ही कवर थे। 2009 में ये PFRDA के पास गया मैटर, तो उन्होंने ये ओपन टू ऑल कर दिया। फिर इसमें जो इंडिविजुअल्स अपना बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, जो जॉब में नहीं है, सैलरीड क्लास नहीं है, वो भी इसमें अपना अकाउंट खुलवा सकते हैं और NPS में अकाउंट खुलवा सकते हैं। इसमें लिमिट रखी गई है 18 से 65 साल। 18 से 65 साल का कोई भी इंसान जाके इसमें अकाउंट खुलवा सकता है। मिनिमम 500 रुपये आपको हर साल डालने पड़ेंगे, मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट है। इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट ने फंड मैनेजर्स अपॉइंट किए हुए हैं, बेसिकली इस टाइम 7 हैं। ये फ़ायदेमंद किस लिए है हमारे इस टाइम पे करंट सिचुएशन को देखते हुए? आप देखोगे अगर पॉपुलेशन इंडिया की इस टाइम पे जितनी भी है, उसमें से 40% अप टू द एज ऑफ 18 है और नेक्स्ट 50% 18 to 65 के बीच में। बिलो 10% है बाकी रेस्ट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन। तो आने वाले टाइम में एक मेजर पॉपुलेशन जो है ओल्ड एज की तरफ जा रही है। ऐसे में उनको फ़ायदा होगा जो इस टाइम NPS में इन्वेस्ट कर लेंगे। NPS आप अकाउंट खुलवाते हैं तो उसमें आपको 4 कैटेगरी में पैसा इन्वेस्ट होता है। आप अपने अकॉर्डिंग पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। 4 कैटेगरीज किस बेसिस पे बांटी हुई है? लो रिस्क, मॉडरेट रिस्क, हाई रिस्क और वेरी हाई रिस्क। लो रिस्क में बेसिकली गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स हैं, मॉडरेट में कॉरपोरेट बॉन्ड्स और हाई रिस्क में इक्विटी है। इक्विटी की मैक्सिमम लिमिट दे रखी है 75%। मैक्सिमम 75% ऑफ योर इन्वेस्टमेंट विल गो इनटू इक्विटी। और वेरी हाई में एक लिमिट लगा रखी है 5% की, उसमें बेसिकली रियल एस्टेट और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बेस्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रस्ट के में इन्वेस्टमेंट होता है। जब आप NPS अकाउंट खुलाते हैं तो आपको खुद ऑप्शन मिलता है कि आप उसमें कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करें, आपका पैसा कहाँ इन्वेस्ट हो। तो आप उसमें एक एक्टिव चॉइस दी जाती है और एक ऑटो चॉइस देख लेते हैं। एक्टिव चॉइस में क्या होता है, आपका मैक्सिमम 75% अमाउंट इक्विटी में लगता है अप टू द एज ऑफ 50। उसके बाद वो हर साल 2.5% की लिमिट रिड्यूस होती चली जाती है, जस्ट बिकॉज एज के साथ आपका रिस्क एपेटाइट कम होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है। सेकंड, आप ऑटो चॉइस में जाते हैं अगर, तो ऑटो चॉइस में भी आपको 3 सब कैटेगरी की हुई हैं जो आपको सिलेक्ट करनी होगी: एग्रेसिव, मॉडरेट और कंजर्वेटिव। एग्रेसिव में लिमिट लगाई हुई है इक्विटी में इन्वेस्टमेंट की 75% अप टू द एज ऑफ 35, और वही मॉडरेट में 50% है और कंजर्वेटिव में 25% अप टू द एज ऑफ 35। और ये भी ग्रेजुअली रिड्यूस होता जाएगा हर साल में जैसे जैसे आपकी एज बढ़ेगी। फर्दर लॉक इन पीरियड आपको बता दिया मैंने 60 ईयर्स का है। इसको हम कंटिन्यू भी करा सकते हैं और डेफर भी करा सकते हैं। कंटिन्यू और डेफरमेंट में क्या फ़र्क है? कंटिन्यू का मतलब हो गया मैं 60 साल के बाद भी इसमें जैसे अभी तक इन्वेस्ट कर रहा था मंथली, मैं करता रहूँगा अप टू द एज ऑफ 70, और मुझे जो भी पैसा मैं निकालूंगा मैं 70 ईयर्स पे निकालूंगा। डेफर्ड में ये हो जाता है कि मैं 60 ईयर्स के बाद अब इसमें कुछ पैसा डालूंगा नहीं अकाउंट में, एज इट इज़ मेरा अकाउंट चलेगा। मुझे विड्रॉल जो है 70 ईयर्स पे लेना है। आप जो भी पैसा निकालेंगे मैक्सिमम आप अपने अकाउंट में से 60% पैसा विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं। आप 60% जो भी पैसा निकालेंगे वो सारा का सारा टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट है। बाकी 40% आपको एक मंथली इनकम की तरह एन्युटी के बेसिस पे मिलेगी, जो आपका नॉर्मल सैलरी की तरह ट्रीट होगा और टैक्स आपके नॉर्मल टैक्स स्लैब रेट के हिसाब से उस पर टैक्स पे करना होगा। ये काफ़ी लंबा टाइम हो जाता है कि 60 ईयर्स का हमारा लॉक इन पीरियड है। कई बार पैसे की ज़रूरत बीच में पड़ने लग जाती है, तो इसमें हमारे एनपीएस में भी ऑप्शन दिया गया है कि आप इसमें प्री मैच्योरिटी ले लें। प्री मैच्योरिटी के लिए कंडीशंस दी गई हैं कुछ, उसमें कुछ स्पेसिफाइड रीजंस हैं। मिनिमम 3 साल का आपका रेगुलर इन्वेस्टमेंट हो, विड्रॉल जो उसमें होगा मैक्सिमम 25% आप अपना अवेलेबल बैलेंस का निकाल सकते हैं, और मैक्सिमम पूरे लाइफ टाइम में आप 3 बार विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं, और उन तीनों विड्रॉल्स में मिनिमम गैप 5 ईयर्स का मैंडेटरी है। तो बेसिक कंडीशंस दी हुई हैं। एक ऑप्शन आता है इस एनपीएस में प्री मैच्योर एग्जिट। मान लो आप 60 साल से पहले ही रिटायर होना चाहते हैं, 50 साल में, 55 साल में, तो आप ये भी कर सकते हैं। उसमें आपकी इनकम 55 साल के बाद से आनी शुरू हो जाएगी, जो जिस एज में भी आप रिटायर होना चाहते हैं, और आप अपना अमाउंट विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं। बट इसमें एक कंडीशन दी है, आप मैक्सिमम 20% पैसा ही अपना निकाल सकते हैं, जो कि टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट रहेगा। बाकी 80% वही एन्यूटी में बंध जाएगा और मंथली इनकम आएगी, जिस पे आपको टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा। इसकी एक कंडीशन दी गई है कि मिनिमम अकाउंट 10 साल पुराना होना चाहिए, और एक छोटी सी कंडीशन है, अगर मैक्सिमम बैलेंस आपका 1 लाख रुपए का है उसमें, तो आप उसको 1 गो में निकाल सकते हैं, उसमें कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं है। तो एनपीएस के लिए मैंने आपको जितनी भी बातें बताई हैं, ये टीयर 1 अकाउंट के लिए है। एक इसमें टीयर 2 अकाउंट होता है। टीयर 2 अकाउंट क्या है? टीयर 2 अकाउंट जस्ट लाइक म्यूचुअल फंड, उसमें कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं है, नो लॉक इन पीरियड, आप पैसा डालो निकालो, और साथ में ये भी है कि उसमें कोई टैक्स बेनिफिट भी नहीं मिलेगा लेकिन आपको, और कोई मिनिमम फंड भी नहीं डालना पूरे साल में। बट इसमें एक कैच है कि आपका टीयर 2 अकाउंट खुलेगा ही तब जब आपका टीयर 1 अकाउंट ओपन हो, तो मिनिमम अमाउंट 500 रुपये ऑटोमेटिक हो जाएगा, जो आपको टीयर 1 में डालना ही पड़ेगा। इसके बाद हम डिस्कस कर लेते हैं एनपीएस के बाद पीपीएफ। PPF is a popular long-term tax-saving investment scheme which incorporates the features of tax-saving investments in order to help the investor to create a financial cushion post-retirement. The interest rate on PPF balance is reset every quarter. In case of implication of income tax, it enjoys the benefit of EET status. What is EEE status? That is exempt, exempt and exempt. क्या मतलब हुआ? इसका ये मतलब हुआ कि जब आप ईपीएफ में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं, तो उस टाइम पे आपको इसमें 80C में रिबेट मिलेगी। 80C में आपने रिबेट ले ली, फिर आपको इसमें इंटरेस्ट आएगा। इस टाइम करेंटली 7.1% का इंटरेस्ट चल रहा है, तो जो भी आप इस पे इंटरेस्ट कमाएंगे वो भी एग्जेम्प्ट रहेगा। और 15 साल के बाद जब आप पैसा निकालेंगे तो वो भी सारा का सारा टैक्स फ्री होगा। तो डेट इज़ कॉल्ड EEE स्टेटस। और काफ़ी अच्छा रिटर्न्स कमाया है पीपीएफ में भी लोगों ने विदाउट मस्ट रिस्क। कोविड से पहले तक ये 8.8 तक भी गया है, फिलहाल 7.1% चल रहा है। पीपीएफ का अकाउंट खुलाने के लिए एक बेसिक कंडीशन है कि आप यहाँ पे रेजिडेंट होने चाहिए, और अगर आपको बीच में मान लो पैसे की ज़रूरत पड़ने लगे तो इसमें तो आप क्या करेंगे? तो इसमें भी कुछ ऑप्शंस दिए गए हैं। बाय द एंड ऑफ द फर्स्ट ईयर एंड बाय द एंड ऑफ द 5th ईयर, इस पीरियड के बीच में आपको अगर पैसे की ज़रूरत पड़ती है तो आप इसमें एक एडवांस निकाल सकते हैं पीपीएफ के अगेंस्ट में। उसकी लिमिट है 25% ऑफ योर अवेलेबल बैलेंस, उससे ज़्यादा आप पैसा नहीं निकाल सकते। सेकंड, आपको अपना ही पैसा अगर निकालना है तो बाय द एंड ऑफ द 5th ईयर उसके बाद आप इसमें 50% विड्रॉल कर सकते हैं। उसमें एक नुकसान सिर्फ इतना होगा, मान लो पीपीएफ का रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट अभी 7.1 है, तो आपको 1% की पेनल्टी कैलकुलेट होगी, और आपको जो भी विड्रॉल होगी वो 6.1 के हिसाब से दे दी जाएगी। तो इसमें बस एक प्रॉब्लम ये है इस अकाउंट के साथ कि मिनिमम 15 साल के लिए आपका पैसा फंस जाएगा। तो जितना भी है आप अपना जो भी इन्वेस्टमेंट करना है अपनी कंडीशंस के हिसाब से लगाएं। ऐसा ना हो कि आपने 3 साल बाद आपको पैसे की ज़रूरत है, 5 साल बाद है, और आप पीपीएफ में लगा दें। आपको चाहिए रिटायरमेंट के टाइम पे पैसा, तो आप एनपीएस में लगाएं। और भी बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं, आप सिर्फ पीपीएफ और एनपीएस हमने एग्जांपल्स के तौर पे लिए हैं, आप डिटेल में भी देख सकते हैं इसको। फर्दर 80C तो सबको पता है, 80C के अलावा भी कुछ सेक्शंस हैं इनकम टैक्स में, तो 2-3 हम यहाँ पे डिस्कस और कर लेते हैं। Apart from tax deductions under 80C, there are various tax saving investment which help you to save on tax. A person can claim a deduction of up to 25,000, और यही सीनियर सिटीजन के केस में 50,000 की लिमिट दी हुई है, ऑन द प्रीमियम पेड टुवर्ड्स हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम दैट इज़ कवर्ड अंडर सेक्शन 80D ऑफ इनकम टैक्स एक्ट। इसमें आप कोई हेल्थ चेकअप्स कराते हैं, प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप्स, तो वो भी 5,000 की लिमिट कवर्ड की गई है। ये इस 25,000 और 50,000 में इंक्लूड है। सेकंड, आप होम लोन लेते हैं तो नॉर्मली 2 लाख तक का सबको पता है कि डिडक्शन मिलेगी, बट वो 2 लाख की डिडक्शन जो है अंडर सेक्शन 24 मिलती है, वो सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट पोर्शन है, और प्रिंसिपल की डिडक्शन जो है हमारी 80C में कवर्ड है, तो इस चीज़ का ध्यान रखें। फिर एक आता है डिडक्शंस अंडर सेक्शन 80TTA। 80TTA क्या है? आपका सेविंग अकाउंट में जितना भी इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है, अगर वो साल में 10,000 तक है तो वो सारा का सारा टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट है। उससे ऊपर है, उसके ऊपर आपको टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा। वहीं 80TTB एक सेक्शन है जो सीनियर सिटीजन्स के लिए बनाया है, उसमें यही 10,000 की लिमिट बढ़ा के 50,000 की हुई है। बेसिक एक डिफरेंस इसमें और है, 80TTA में सिर्फ और सिर्फ सेविंग अकाउंट का ही इंटरेस्ट कवर्ड है, जबकि 80TTB में सेविंग प्लस एफडीज़ का भी इंटरेस्ट कवर्ड है। फिर लास्ट में आता है एक अपना सेक्शन 80E। इसमें आप कोई भी एजुकेशन लोन लेते हैं अपने लिए, स्पाउस के लिए, चिल्ड्रन के लिए, और एनी स्टूडेंट टू होम यू आर लीगल गार्जियन, तो उसके इंटरेस्ट को आप इसमें कवर कर सकते हैं। तो दोस्तों आज के लिए इतना ही। मैं अभी सम अप करना चाहूँगा। तो अपना जो भी इन्वेस्टमेंट हो प्रॉपर डिसीजन लें, प्रॉपर कंसल्ट करके ही डिसीजन लें, एक दूसरे को देख के इन्वेस्टमेंट ना करें। धन्यवाद।
क्रिटिकल है बट वी आर ट्राइंग।
ये सब हुआ कैसे?
एक फोन आया था राजेश के पास। उसने कहा कि उनकी 1 करोड़ की लॉटरी निकली है और उसके लिए उसने बैंक डिटेल्स मांगी। राजेश ने सारी डिटेल्स दे दी। 1 घंटे के अंदर ही उनके बैंक अकाउंट से सारा पैसा साफ हो गया और वो यहाँ आ गए। हार्ट अटैक आया है।
देखा आपने, आपकी जरा सी असावधानी क्या कर सकती है। डिजिटल फ्रॉड करने वालों से सावधान रहें। अपनी बैंक डिटेल्स, अपना डेबिट या क्रेडिट कार्ड नंबर, एक्सपायरी डेट, सीवीवी, ओटीपी, पिन कभी किसी को ना बताएं। सावधान रहें, समझदार बने।
आईपीएफ अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
हाँ जी सुरेश जी, रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो प्रोविडेंट फंड आएगा उसका क्या करेंगे?
कुछ खास प्लान नहीं है, पड़ा रहेगा बैंक में, ब्याज आता रहेगा और क्या।
सुरेश जी, बैंक से कितना ब्याज आएगा? एक नई स्कीम बताता हूँ, उसमें पैसे लगा दो, साल भर में दुगने बल्कि चौगुना हो जाएगा। हाँ बस कुछ नए मेंबर्स बनाने।
नहीं सुरेश जी, इन सब फालतू चक्करों में मत पड़िए कि नए मेंबर बनाना, रातों रात करोड़पति बनाना, ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। आप लालच में आकर नहीं, समझदारी से निवेश करें। नए मेंबर बनाओ, वर्ल्ड टूर पे जाओ, कमीशन पाओ या उपहार घर ले जाओ। ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। ऐसी स्कीम्स धोखा हो सकती हैं।
आईईपीएफ अथॉरिटी, कॉर्पोरेट कार्य मंत्रालय द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
यार यार वो मेरे बचपन का दोस्त है, वो क्यों मुझसे झूठ कहने लगा? वो कह रहा था इस स्कीम में पैसा लगाने पर 6 महीने में 10 के 20,000 हो जाएंगे।
और तूने मान लिया?
ऐसा ऑफर कौन छोड़ता है? 10,000 के 20,000।
एक काम कर, ये ले 100 रुपये पकड़ना और जाके 10 किलो लड्डू लेके आ।
अबे पागल है क्या? 100 रुपए में 10 किलो लड्डू आते हैं? अबे इसके तो 1 किलो लड्डू भी नहीं आएंगे।
जब इतना जानता है तो ये नहीं जानता कि 6 महीने में 10,000 के 20,000 नहीं होते। समझदारी बढ़ा, लालच नहीं।
लालच में न आए, समझदारी बढ़ाएं। IEPF अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
Hello friends, myself Gaurav Agarwal, Chartered Accountant. Having experience of 15 years practicing in the area of indirect taxes, I have been advising to corporates in the area of GST, service tax and excise. The GST was introduced in 2017. 5 years have already been over. Now I am here to give you awareness about the GST registration. Before we start the process, laws and the legal provisions, I will give you the idea about the benefits you will be availing after taking the GST registration. GST is a law wherein the indirect tax is recovered from the consumer and paid by the supplier to the government account. Benefits of taking the GST registrations are: you will be legally recognized by the banks, by the financial institutions. You can raise the tax invoice wherein your buyer can take the credit of the taxes charged from him. You are also allowed to take the input tax credit of the purchases on which you have paid the GST. Under the GST, registration is PAN based, and there is one more thing. This registration is state wise. So wherever you are providing the services or you are supplying the goods, you need to take the registration in each and every state. So after understanding the benefits of the GST registration, we have to move on. Who is liable to take the GST registration? As per section 22, every supplier of the goods or services or both is required to obtain the GST registration in the state or union territory from where he makes the taxable supply if his aggregate turnover exceeds the limit. Here are two words are there, important words: from where he makes the taxable supply. Another word is aggregate turnover. So we need to understand the meaning of both the words. Here I have given a table in which aggregate turnover limit is specified. What is this limit? This is basically the threshold limit wherein state-wise conditions amount is referred, that the applicant who is applying for the GST registration need to check what is the threshold limit in the state. In case of goods only, the earlier the threshold limit, general threshold limit was 20 lakh only. But later on in GST, government provided a benefit that in case of you are supplying the goods only, the threshold limit benefit can be extended to 40 lakh. However, if you are supplying goods and services both or in combination, in that case the threshold limit in general will be 20 lakh, and for the specified states it is 10 lakh. You can see in the table there are states Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh. There is a different threshold limit. However, in case you are supplying only goods, then in few states 40 lakh benefit is available. So before proceeding to take the registration, you need to check what is the threshold limit for taking the GST registration. Now the next step is how this 40 lakh, 20 lakh or 10 lakh threshold limit will be calculated. We have to check the aggregate turnover. It is defined under section 2 subsection 6. The aggregate turnover says aggregate turnover means a value of all the taxable supply, exempt supply, export supplies, or the services or both, and interstate supply, a person having the same PAN number, to be computed on the all India basis, but it excludes central tax, state tax, union territory, integrated tax, cess, and also excludes the value of inward supply under the reverse charge mechanism. Now let us understand this. The aggregate turnover have some inclusion and exclusions. It includes, first of all, it includes the taxable supply and the exempt supply as well. So we should be very clear that the exempt supply, which is out of the GST, shall also perform part of the aggregate turnover. However, there is an exemption provided that if you are dealing exclusively under the exempted supply, in that case you do not need to take the registration. Now go to the table slide 6, wherein exclusions and inclusions are mentioned. For aggregate turnover, total turnover of all the branches under the same PAN will be included. Value of exported goods and services will be included. Value of exempted goods and services will be included. In interstate supplies between the distinct person having the same PAN number. What is this? There may be a situation that you have the selling location in Delhi as well as in Noida, and you are transferring the goods from Delhi to Noida or Noida to Delhi. In that case, the supply between these two branches shall be considered as a supply for the purpose of aggregate turnover. Now next, all the supplies made by the taxable person, whether on his own account or made on behalf of all his principal, means agent principal relationship. If you are selling the goods as an agent principal relationship, the turnover of the supply which is as an agent will also be included under the aggregate turnover. Now what are the exclusions? Exclusions are given that inward supply on which tax is payable under reverse charge. What is this? There are situations wherein you are required to pay the tax under the reverse charge mechanism, like goods transport agency service, like in case you are availing the advocate services, legal services, there is a reverse charge liability. Means tax liability is being shifted instead of supplier to the recipient. Therefore, this is not your output tax liability. Therefore, it will be excluded from the aggregate turnover. Now the next is value of supply of goods supplied by the principal directly from the premises of the job worker. It will also be excluded. And the most important is element of GST. Your supply may include taxes also. The tax will be excluded for the purpose of calculating the aggregate turnover. So after finalizing the aggregate turnover, now we can decide whether we are what our turnover supply is exceeding the threshold limit or not. If it exceeds the threshold limit as per the state, you have to take the GST registration. After deciding this, now we will move on to place where we need to take the registration. There may be a question, should I take the registration in Delhi or in Noida or in Haryana, Gurgaon? So this will be decided as per the section 22. Section 22 says you have to take the registration from the place where you supply the goods or services. So from where you supplies the goods or services. So जहाँ से आप सप्लाई कर रहे हैं, जहाँ से आप सेल कर रहे हैं, उस प्लेस पर रजिस्ट्रेशन होना ज़रूरी है. Especially in case of goods, if you are supplying from Delhi, you have to take the registration in Delhi. If you are supplying from Haryana, Gurgaon, then you have to take the registration in Haryana. यहाँ पर एक बात और ध्यान रखनी पड़ेगी कि अगर हमारा गोडाउन हरियाणा में भी है, हमारा गोडाउन दिल्ली में भी है और हमारा गोडाउन नोएडा में भी है, तो वी हैव टू टेक रजिस्ट्रेशन इन ईच ऑफ द स्टेट. So each state-wise registration will be required. However, in case of services, there is a difference. You can supply the service from one location. Like I'm a chartered accountant, I have the office in Delhi. I can supply the services all over India while sitting in Delhi. I can bill from there. So I do not need to take the registration in each state. So the place of supply will be the location of the customer, but the place from where I am supplying the services will be the Delhi. Next is, after deciding this place of business, I will decide to take the registration in the state and the threshold according to the threshold limit. Let's move on. Is there any compulsory mandatory registration under the GST? Even if my threshold limit is less than the state-wise limit, I should have to take the registration? Yes. There are certain categories under section 24 wherein the mandatory registration is required, like person making any interstate supply, casual taxable persons, person who are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, non-resident taxable person. Non-resident taxable persons are the like actors, film stars, or the musicians coming from outside India into India they do the stage shows, they charge the fees, they are providing the service. In that case, there is no threshold limit. They have to take the registration in India at the place where the event is being held. The another category is person who is required to deduct the TDS tax under section 51 of the GST Act. Every e-commerce operator who is required to collect the tax at source. Input service distributor. Input service distributors are the persons who are distributing the tax, input tax to the branches. They are also required to take mandatory registration. There is no threshold limit. Person who makes the taxable supply of goods or services or both on behalf of other person, whether as an agent or otherwise, are also required to mandatorily take the registration. Person who are required to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Every person supplying the online information and database access retrieval service. Now, after reading this compulsory registration, we have to understand two important points. One is casual taxable person registration. Who is the casual taxable person? The person जो लोग एग्जीबिशन पर्पज से, इवेंट पर्पज से रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की रिक्वायरमेंट जिनको मैंडेटरी है, लाइक आई एम फ्रॉम J&K, आई एम कमिंग फॉर द ट्रेड फेयर, आई हैव बुक्ड अ स्टॉल देयर और एंड आई स्टार्ट selling from there. In GST there is a law, you have to take the registration. The registration will be under casual registration category, and there is only threshold limit is available only to the one person that is supplying the handicraft goods. So therefore we should keep in mind there is no threshold limit except for the handicraft goods. Casual taxable person have to take the GST registration. Person who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. As I discussed earlier also, that there may be a situation you are availing input tax, you are availing services of GTA, you are availing services of law firm advocates, wherein you are required to pay tax as an in RCM. In that case, there is no threshold limit. You have to take the GST registration. Another situation is online portals, e-commerce operators who are required to collect the tax as TCS have to take the registration. There is no threshold limit. After deciding that who are mandatorily required to take the registration, let's move on. Person not liable to take the registration. Here, the 2-3 categories are there who are not required to take the GST registration. Person exclusively engaged in the business of exempt services or the supplying the exempt goods are exempt from taking the GST registration. Agriculturist who is engaged into the cultivation of the land is also not required to take the registration. There may be specified categories as notified by the government. So, if you are exclusively into the exempt supply, then you are not required to take the GST registration. Voluntary registration. A person who is not liable to be registered under the GST Act may get himself registered voluntarily to take the benefits of GST registrations. What is this? Voluntary registration, as the word suggests, means even if your threshold limit is not crossed and you want to take the benefit of GST registration, therefore you are allowed to take the GST registration. The benefits of taking the voluntary registrations are you are allowed to issue the tax invoice, you can collect the tax, you can pay to the government, you are allowed to take the input tax credit also. You are legally recognized. So voluntary registration is allowed even if your threshold turnover is less than 20 lakh or 40 lakh or 10 lakh as the case may be. However, once you take the GST registration, you cannot claim any exemption that your threshold is less than the limit. So once you are registered, you have to charge the tax and you have to pay to the government account. Next is there are certain special provisions for casual and non-resident taxable persons. So we would like to discuss that there is a time limit for which casual registration is provided, that is 90 days. However, this 90-day time limit can further be extended for another 90 days if request is made to the commissioner. The above person can make the taxable supply only after the registration certificate is received. This taxable person at the time of the casual taxpayer or non-resident taxpayer need to deposit tax in advance, and then the advance paid tax will be credited to their electronic cash ledger, which can be adjusted at the time of paying the liability. To sum up, we need to understand this casual taxpayer. Casual taxpayers registration is granted for maximum 90 days. It can be further extended on to the request to the commissioner for another 90 days. At the time of registration, the tax is paid in advance. It is calculated on estimated basis. The payment made in advance is credited to the cash ledger. Once you make the payment at the time of filing the returns, the cash already paid is adjusted. The casual registration gets automatically cancelled once the 90 days time period is over. So we understand now that the whoever is selling goods on casual basis, temporary basis in the trade fairs, exhibition and events, they need to take the casual registration, and there is no threshold limit except for the handicraft goods. We now move on to document requirement for GST registration. There are certain document requirement for GST registration. Once you proceed for GST registration, you have decided you need to take the registration. Now your job is to collect the document. What are the requirements for the document? It will depend upon your legal status. You may be proprietor individual or you may be a company. Let's discuss the documents. If you are a company, you need an additional document like certificate of incorporation, board resolution, authorization, and in general document requirement is photograph of the proprietor director, PAN card of the proprietor director, mobile number and email ID. Here it is very important that mobile number and email ID is a most important part of this registration document, because all the communication with the department and over the GST portal will be done through mobile number and email. All the verifications will be done through OTPs. So mobile number and email ID is important. That should be given very cautiously. Identity proof of directors and proprietor, Aadhaar card election ID, driving license as passport are allowed as an identity proof. Bank account proof is also needed. However, it can be submitted after taking the registration. Now, the most important part where the registration is generally rejected is business address proof. What is business address proof? Wherein the registration need to be taken. There may be a situation where you are the owner of the property. In that case, ownership proof, if is required, that may be registered registration document, property registration document. And if the property is rented property, in that case you need rent agreement. Valid rent agreement should be there. It can be registered or it can be non-registered. However, in few states it is mandatory to take the registered rent agreement. So therefore it should be checked whether the unregistered agreement will work or not. Electricity in the name of the owner of the property also needed. NOC in case of the property wherein you are taking the GST registration is of a relative or the known person who is not charging any rent. In that case, you need to take the NOC from the owner of the property along with the ownership proof like electricity bill, property tax receipts, etc. So business address proof is the most important because most of the notices of rejections are received only in case of property document. Therefore, it should be kept in mind that the property document should be very clear, readable, and it should be valid document. Now, after collecting all these documents, we will start the process of GST registration. GST registration process is online process wherein you need to log into the GST portal. GST portal is gst.gov.in. On the portal homepage, there is a menu services. Under the services, the registration tab is there. You will go to new registration. After clicking the new registration, you will receive a window like this. Fill registration form. You will fill the basic details that I am the taxpayer, I am taking the voluntary registration, or I am the specified taxable person, state, district, legal name. In case of proprietorship or the company, you will mention as per the PAN card, PAN account, PAN number, email ID and phone number. That is very important because the email ID and phone number will be used for the purpose of OTP. After entering the CAPTCHA, you will proceed and then a TRN is generated. The TRN will be emailed to you. That on the basis of that TRN, you again log in using the OTP. So after entering the TRN and OTP, the form filling will start. You will enter all the credentials, personal details, address proof, requirements, services and the goods wherein you are required to take the GST registration. All the documents will be uploaded on the portal. There is a space limit, that therefore they provided that all the documents should be 100 KB size or maximum 1 MB size as per the requirement. Photo of the directors on the share will be uploaded. So after uploading all the documents, filling the form, you will move on to verification page. Verification page, at the time of a verification page, you will see the name of the proprietor or the director or the authorized person, whoever you have selected. And on the verification page, there are options to submit through EVC. The forms will be submitted through EVC. After submitting the form through EVC, you will be asked to do the Aadhaar authentication. There will be an email sent to you that you need to complete the authentication. Aadhaar authentication is basically Aadhaar, since GST registration is PAN based, Aadhaar based. So after completing the Aadhaar authentication as per the email, you will be directed to receive and to go to the portal, and you will see that your application is finally submitted. Once the application is finally submitted, The range officer, ward officer have 7 working day time to complete the verify the application. He has to do 7-day verification, otherwise the application is got automatically accepted. He can send you the notice asking for you more documents or reject the application. In that case, a notice will be issued. After receiving the notice, you will submit the reply clarification and also upload the document required. Like he is asking some documents related to address proof, related to directorship and anything. You need to upload the document and submit the clarification. After submitting the clarification, he has another 7-day time, and then he will approve or reject the application. Once the application is accepted, approved, then you will receive an email, welcome to GST family. That on the email there is a credentials to log in the GST portal. After login to GST portal, you can download the GST certificate. GST certificate will look like this. Slide number 17. You will see the certificate. GST registration certificate will be issued under REG 0506. It will have registration number, legal name, trade name, constitution of the business, address, and the officer who has authorized you, the date of validity. The GST number contains 15 digits basically. First 2 digits of the GST number denotes the state code, and next 10 digits are the PAN number, check number, and your entity code. So therefore, now after getting this registration, there may be a situation you need to do the amendments, like you have changed your address, that there is change in directorship, there is change in goods or services you are providing. So you need to file the amendment application. The amendment application can be filed online. You can upload the document. The amendment application approval and rejection process is same as in the case of registration. Now there is another category, deemed registration. So deemed registration is provided to embassies, consulates, wherein they are allowed to take the credit and take the refund, because internationally they are allowed to they are allowed to take the refund because they are exempt from the taxes. Penalty for non-registration, it is important. Once you are required to take the registration and you have not taken, there is a penalty of ₹10,000, minimum penalty. It may be exceeded. You can also be levied penalty for giving false information. So here friends, I have completed the registration process, penalty provisions, amendments. I hope the investors who are going to invest in the businesses and going to start the business will be benefited by this information. And GST is a very important provision, important law in our cases. So we have to follow all the provisions. Otherwise, there is penal provisions. So to avoid any penalty, the GST laws, penal provisions should also be kept in mind. Hello learners, welcome to this live teleconferencing session of Indira Gandhi National Open University. Today we are going to discuss another important topic that is sampling in educational research, its third part. Already we have taken the first two sessions on sampling in educational research, its part 1 and part 2, and today we are going to discuss the third part of it. Before starting our discussion, let me to introduce myself. I, Dr. Niradhar De, Associate Professor, School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Welcome you all on my personal behalf and on behalf of my school, that is School of Education. Friends, today's topic, that is sampling in educational research, the third part that has been taken from your popular program, that is MA Education program. And the courses where this topic is included, the concept is included, that is from two different courses. One is from the first year of your MA Education program. Course code is MES016. Course title is Educational Research. And the second course is, that is the practical oriented dissertation course that is included in the second year of MA Education program. Course title is MESP001. This is the course code and course title is dissertation. So friends, today's sampling topic that is included in both the courses. One is the theoretical course and other is the practical oriented dissertation course. So that's the project course. Now let us go forward to understand the very concept of sample and population. We have already discussed in our earlier sessions. Still then, very quickly I will touch upon these concepts, and further we will be discussing the non-probability sampling technique aspects, because in our earlier two sessions we have already discussed the probability sampling technique, different methods and techniques that are come under the probability sampling, and today we are going to discuss the non-probability sampling. Let us go forward. The important discussion points that today we will be discussing, that is, first we will understand what is the concept of population and sample. Then second, we will discuss what are the different types of sample, and further we will be discussing how to draw a non-probability sample, that what techniques we have to use for drawing a sample for our study, for our research, that is through the non-probability sampling technique. Let us go forward. I am not discuss with detail the very concept of sample and the very concept of population. We have already discussed in our earlier sessions. Still then, let me to touch upon some of the important aspects, important concept about the very concept, the very meaning, the very definition of a sample. So friends, a small unit drawn from a population is called as a sample. Many sample can be drawn from a single population, and further, if population and sample characteristics are same, we call this is a representative or good sample. So now question is, what is a sample? A sample is a representative proportion of a population. Okay, we know that population is called as a large entity, large unit, or you can say population. The concept of a population is just like a universe. Okay, a large entity. It may address, it may include a vast geographical area also. So friends, for conducting our study, for conducting our research, especially in a master dissertation, there is the paucity of time, and you are not going to get much time for conducting your study. So that's why you have to conduct your study taking few unit of the population. Okay, and that few unit of the population is called as the sample. Now question is, how you will get the few units of the population as your sample. Certain techniques are there. One is the probability sampling technique, other is the non-probability sampling technique. And I have already said that whenever you are conducting a study, you are conducting a scientific research, definitely the sample that you are selecting for conducting the study, that should
represent the population. So what are the different parameters, what are the different aspects, and what are the different you can say precautions that you will take, or what processes you have to adopt, so that you can say the sample that you have selected, that is really and that is practically and that is properly representing the population. That means all the characteristics of the population are reflected in the sample. So that we will be discussing further. As I have already said that you can select many samples from a particular population. As example, let the size of the population is 1000. That is on your screen, you can just see it. Let the size of the population is 1000 and you want to draw parallel samples, more than one sample, just like here sample 1 with the size of 100, sample 2 size is 100, sample 3 is also size is 100, sample this is 4, this is 5 and this is 6. So these 6 different samples that you have selected from the population. By using it may be by using the probability method or non-probability method. So now what I mean to say, there is the possibility that you can draw more than one sample from a particular population. So size of the population is here 1000, and when you are going to select 10% of the population as an example, that is the number 100. So the number 100, you do not know what is the serial number of it, because the size of the population, it starts from serial number 1 to serial number 1000, and from this 1000 number your sample size 100, it may be serial number 2, then 8, then 32, 72, 82, let 46, I don't know. So that will come when you will adopt the process, when you will adopt certain steps for selecting the sample. And after selecting 100 unit, again if you want to compare the observations or the findings of first sample with the second sample, you can also select parallel samples from a same population. Further, let me to focus upon that what are the different types of sample are there. Just like on your screen now you can observe that mostly there are two types of sampling techniques are there. One is called as the probability sampling technique and other is called as the non-probability sampling technique. Under probability sampling technique, you see the simple random sampling technique is there, stratified random sampling, multi-stage sampling, systematic sampling and cluster samplings are there. We have already taken 2 different sessions. I think on 9th of November I have taken one session, that is sampling part 1. Then 22nd of November I have taken the second session, that is sampling part 2, and today we are going to discuss the non-probability sampling. This is also a type of sampling technique, and under this non-probability sampling, these are the certain methods just like snowball sampling method, quota sampling method, incidental sampling method, as well as the purposive sampling methods are there. So many a time we also conduct our study taking this non-probability sampling method. So now let us try to understand that what is the concept of these 4 types or 4 methods or 4 techniques of non-probability sampling. Let us go forward. So beforehand, let me to very quickly touch upon the very concept of a non-probability sampling technique. Non-probability sampling technique means just like the units of sample are selected at the discretion of the researcher. Here sampling selection depends upon the judgments of the researcher or the purpose of the research. Try to understand. Many a time we select the units for conducting our study, we select the subjects for conducting our study from the population as per the researcher's discretion, as per the purpose of the study. So try to understand what is the purpose of the study. So many a time your objective of the study, the research questions, that will also direct you that what type of sampling unit, what type of subject you really want for conducting the study, for getting a good result. So that's why if I will go for a probability sampling technique, then researchers' biasness or researchers' judgment or the purpose of the study will not reflect there. Okay, in probability sampling technique, randomly you have to select. Okay, so you do not know which subject will come and from where you will collect the data, who are the sampling unit. But in a non-probability sampling technique, so as per the purpose, as per your judgment, as per the requirement of the research, as per the need of the research, as per the research question, as per the research objectives, you can select the unit. Okay, so that's why this has rightly said that sampling selection depends upon researcher's judgment of the researcher or the purpose of the research. So what is the very purpose of the research? What is the very aim? What is the very objective of the study? Then accordingly you have to select. It is up to you as a researcher. You will take the decision that which population unit you have to select for conducting your study. So particularly to know detail about the specific techniques that we follow in non-probability sampling technique, let us go forward. So 4 types of sampling techniques are there. That's called as the snowball sampling, quota sampling, incidental sampling, and purposive sampling. Now we will be understanding these 4 techniques of non-probability sampling with certain illustration, with certain examples. So now let us focus upon what is the snowball sampling. You see, in snowball sampling, mostly what we do, you see the very name of the sampling technique is snowball. Okay, snowball means when you will throw a ball on the snow, you will find that the ball will absorb the snow and the thickness of the ball will increase. Okay, so that's why when the ball will move on the snow, the thickness of the ball will increase. So accordingly, the same concept also apply in sampling. Okay, so many a time we do not have any idea about the population unit, about their number, about their existence, about their address, and who are they. We do not know how many of their number, but we want to conduct a study taking those subjects. So how can you do this? Okay, so here by using the non-probability sampling technique, when we do not have a clear-cut idea of the population, still then you can select few unit of the sample by using certain technique and you can conduct your study. Now let us try to understand with certain illustration, with certain example, that how we can do this. Just like when it is difficult to access the sample because of the very nature of the members of the population, as I have already said that many a time we do not know who are the members, where they exist, where they stay. Still then you want to conduct a study. Then second, to identify the first unit of the population will help to get other units of the population, especially in the snowball sampling method. We'll discuss that. To identify the people involved in, okay, these are the certain examples, but here you see, to identify the first unit of the population will help to get other unit of the population. Just like, if I'll give an example, earlier you hadn't idea about the population unit, but somehow by using a technique, you try to get the first unit of the population. And when you will interact with the first unit of the population, the first unit of the population will give you more information about other unit. Particularly if I will discuss with certain illustrations, certain examples, the things will much clear. Just like to identify the people involved in various antisocial activities. You see, the Department of Police, the criminal department in a city, in a state, what they do not know the exact number of the person or the individual those are involved really in different antisocial activities, okay, the criminal activities. Still then, how they say that in a city or in a state, what is their number, where they stay. So what they do, first they try to reach at the first population. Just like if I will give the example of the mobile thieves. Nowadays you will find that in the city areas, mostly thieves are there and they will just snatch your smartphone. Okay, so if the police or anybody, if a single mobile thief catch red-handed, then when you will interact with that person, he or she may say the name of other persons who are involved in such type of activities, in such type of mobile, in such type of activities. So that's why identifying the first unit of the population, ultimately that help you to reach at the other unit of the population. Just like the first unit of the population, he says that yes, I am not the alone, there is a group, we 3-4 persons are there, and mutually we do this type of mobile thief activities. Then when the person will tell another 4 names, then what you will do, you will go and you will search the another 4 members, and when you will interact with them, then they will also confess, yes, other members are also there, we are not only 4, other groups are also there. So accordingly, by catching, by interacting 1 unit of the population, you may reach at the 50th unit of the population, and taking the 50 mobile thieves, you can conduct a study. Otherwise, in the schools, many a time you will find that the students, they are involved in different types of you can say mischievous activities in the classroom. Okay, so they disturb other students also. It may be in their section, it may be in their class, or it may be in their school. Nowadays, you will find that many students are involved in such type of activities. So, being a teacher, what you will do to know that what is the exact number of such students, those are involved in such type of things, in such type of mischievous activities in the school. So, you can just employ, you can just you can say employ a spy in your class to know at least a single student's name. And after identifying the first students, when you will interact with him or her, he or she may tell you the other names in other classes, in other sections of your school, who are really involved in such type of mischievous activities. So accordingly, you can make a group and you can interact with them, and you can also interact with their parents, that what are the problems with, and you can find out the real cause, then accordingly you can also solve the problem. So friends, what I mean to say, these are the certain examples where these are the certain situations where a snowball sampling technique can be used for conducting the study. The other important examples are just like to identify the students who are addicted in smartphones, especially in the schools nowadays you will find. Then when you are conducting a study by using a snowball sampling technique or in a non-probability sampling technique, you can conduct a study, you can get the findings, but it is very difficult to generalize the findings. In a very general way, systematically, I can say that if you are conducting a study by using the non-probability sampling technique, it may be snowball, it may be quota, it may be judgmental, or it may be purposive sampling technique. Here, the scope is very limited to generalize the result of the study. So this is the important drawbacks or limitation, especially in non-probability sampling technique. Further now, let us proceed to understand the very concept of a quota sampling. Quota sampling is also one of the you can say non-probability sampling technique. Here quota sampling is somehow similar with the stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling is part of the probability sampling. Somehow it is similar with the stratified random sampling. But here you are not going to do any type of randomization. So randomization is not required in quota sampling. To discuss with an example, let your n is 1000. That means the size of the population is 1000, that comprise 60% boys and 40% girls. It means among the total number of the population 1000, 600 boys are there and 400 girls are there. And you want to select a sample, the number, the quota that you have fixed, the number will be 100. Okay, as already you have the idea that the population includes 60% boys and 40% girls. So one thing you can do, that you can select 60% boys and 40% girls from the sample, the quota that you have fixed for sampling, that is 100. So 60% of 100 is 60 and 40% of 100 is 40. That means you may select 60 boys and 40 girls for your study. But how you will select in quota sampling, as this is a non-probability sampling method, so that's why the sampling will be finished when the researcher gets 60 boys and 60 girls. So what you will do, you have make a list of the population, you have the idea about the population, size is 1000, that includes 60% boys, that is 600 their number, and 40% girls, their number is 400. And you want to select a quota, you have fixed a quota that is 100, the sample size will be 100, that includes the proportionate rate of your population, that is 60% boys and 40% girls. That means 60 boys and 40 girls will be there. So no need of doing any type of randomization, just you go whoever is available, you give questionnaire to them or you take their interview, and when 60 boys will complete, then boys quota will be completed, and when you will take interview or get questionnaire from 40 girls, so girls quota will also complete. So accordingly 60 plus 30 boys and girls, total will be 100. The quota that you have decided earlier is 100. So when 100 number will fulfilled, taking 60 boys and 40 girls, your sampling process will end there. But here the most important limitation is, here there is also difficulty to generalize the result. By conducting a study, taking the quota sampling, here also you cannot generalize the result. Now friends, let us try to understand the third important technique of non-probability sampling, that's called as the incidental sampling. So how can you do this? The very term that has been used here, incidental, that means incidentally which available, you just include them as in your study as sample. Just like here, incidental sampling is also called as convenient sampling. What you can do here, select the units which is incidentally or conveniently available. So here no need of giving any prior information to them. Okay, let you want to take 50 SMC members, school management committee members, for conducting a study relating to school based activities or relating to school management or relating to what is going on in the school. You want to take data from the SMC members. You know that as per the Right to Education Act 2009, now across our country, across India, in every school there is a SMC, okay, school management committee, and their work is to develop the school development plan. Okay, and you have already decided and already defined that you will collect data from which area, from which tahsil or from which panchayat, and what are the different schools are there. So accordingly, without giving prior information to the SMC members, you do not know who are the SMC members. Conveniently, at your convenience, you visit the place, you visit the village, you visit the panchayat, you visit the tahsil, you visit the school, and you ask them that who are the members of the SMC. Okay, and after getting idea, after getting their name, their address, you just visit their home place. Okay, so by visiting door to door, who is the members who is available at that time at their home, you can just take their interview. Okay, and as you have decided that you have fixed the size that 50 SMC members will be interviewed, and whoever is available, you take their interview on spot, and when 50 numbers will be completed, then your data collection will be completed, your sampling will be completed there. So how did you do this? You conducted this study or you select the sample incidentally available SMC members, and conveniently and at your convenient, okay, without giving any prior notice, without giving any prior communication, or without giving any type of prior letter to them. Okay, so in this way, conveniently, incidentally, you can select your sample and you can conduct your study. But here also generalization is not possible. I have already said that you see, you may take any non-probability sampling technique, but it's very difficult, very hard to generalize the result of your research. So generalization of result is not possible, as sampling is not drawn from the population on a representative basis. So 50 unit of 50 number of the SMC, you cannot, they will properly represent the entire population. So here there is the difficulty in representing or you can say the generalizing the result. And the last non-probability sampling technique, that's called as the purposive sampling technique. So many a time we use purposive sampling technique for conducting our study. It is based upon the researcher's discussion. The researcher will take the decision that to whom the researcher will select for the study. It is also called as the judgmental sampling. The researcher defines the purpose for selecting a particular unit or group of sample. To adopt purposive sampling method, the researcher should have adequate experience about the population and objectives of the research. As an example, study habits of high achieving students, if I will take this is as the problem for the study, then habits may be different between boys and girls. It may be different between different habitations, rurals and urbans, okay, even if in different management of schools. So how can you do this? So that's why here as a researcher, you know very well about the research problem. You know very well about the research objectives and research questions, and what is the very purpose, what is the very need of your study. Then accordingly, you have to include the sample from where you will get the adequate data and from where you will get the intense data that will really fulfill your study, that will really fulfill the objectives of your study. So accordingly, as a researcher, you will take a decision. It is your discussion. You will take the right decision that who are the sampling unit to whom you will select for conducting your study. So friends, today we discuss some of the important techniques, important methods of non-probability sampling. That is, we have first discussed this normal sampling, then we discuss incidental sampling, then we discuss quota sampling, and we also discuss the purposive sampling method. We have already completed the probability sampling technique, and today we completed the non-probability sampling. And tomorrow in my next session, I will be discussing the size of the sampling and sampling error. Thank you.
आइए अब आपको दिखाते हैं एक गीत जिसे गा रही हैं विदुश्री पांडे।
है मेरे प्यारे वतन, है मेरे बिछड़े चमन, तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान, तू ही मेरी आरज़ू, तू ही मेरी आबरू, तू ही मेरी शान। है मेरे प्यारे वतन, है मेरे बिछड़े चमन, तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान। तेरे दामन से जो आए उन हवाओं को सलाम, तेरे दामन से जो आए उन हवाओं को सलाम, चूम लूँ मैं उस ज़ुबां को जिस पे आए तेरा नाम, सबसे प्यारी सुबह तेरी, सबसे रंगी तेरी शाम, तुझ पे दिल।
Welcome to all. Evaluation is an important component in teaching learning process, and when we think of a program, this curriculum evaluation is an integral component in adult education curriculum for social action. In today's session, we are going to discuss about curriculum evaluation in adult education. The objective of the session is to identify the need of curriculum evaluation in adult education program and to classify the various approaches to curriculum evaluation. So let us see why this evaluation is necessary in adult education program. Normally, we may think that in teaching learning process, evaluation is an important aspect. But when we think of any program that we meant for training or for developing any curriculum, this curriculum evaluation is necessary. So let us see the necessity of curriculum evaluation. The first one, what we can think is that the planning for more effective adult education for social action it's an important component, and that leads the necessity for curriculum evaluation. Secondly, we can see that learning from successes and mistakes, because each success will teach us more things and the mistakes also will teach us to correct or to do any program in a meaningful manner. Thirdly, when we look at the importance of curriculum evaluation, we can see that we have to justify activities to disinterested community members. So, why we are doing certain activities, that is an important thing, and justifying also the funding agencies for the external thing, agencies, it is also important in curriculum evaluation. Another point, when we look at the necessity of curriculum evaluation, we can see that the necessity is to ensure that the group or organization is developing sustainably. And the next one, the sharing of successes and failures with others to build solidarity and building community. So these are the important components for conducting curriculum evaluation in adult education program. And next we are going to discuss about that the evaluation process, it has the two phases, that the internal support function and the control function. So these two functions, it has two purposes, that is the internal support function and the control function. What is this internal support function means? The internal support function means that to analyze the past to understand the future. So when we take a program, we have to analyze how it has been conducted, and it will lead us to conduct the future program in a meaningful manner, in an effective way also. The second purpose, we can see that is the control function. So here, what is this control function means? The control function means that there is the controlling of the finances and the auditing purposes of any program. So that is the control function. So we have seen the two purposes why we are conducting the evaluation. So in that way, for every program, these two functions are very much important. That is the internal support function as well as the control function. Next, we are going to discuss about the participatory evaluation. Normally, we are thinking about the general evaluation, but when we think of a program, the necessity of participatory evaluation is coming up. Then why this participatory evaluation is important? That is because by making the local people to participate in a program and to analyze. That gives the real meaning of participatory evaluation. Why we are conducting this participatory evaluation is that, number one, that is, it uses learning and education to promote reflection and critical analysis by both project participants and educational and development workers. So here we can see that this participatory evaluation is necessary for the self-reflection of the participants as well as the critical analysis of the program. What type of program has taken place and how they are reflecting. The reflection takes place at various stages, not only at the beginning or during, but post-program also we can see this participatory evaluation. Secondly, the important thing is that for the participatory evaluation, it serves the purpose of improving the program and organization in a given educational and development intervention. So here, the third one also, when we look at the function of participatory evaluation, that is supports and extends participatory models of educational development more generally. So here, all these two purposes of participatory evaluation, it is to improve the program in a meaningful manner. Then the next important function of participatory evaluation is to empower the communities and the organizations and individuals to analyze and solve their own problems. So there some kind of self-evaluation is taking place in this purpose of participatory evaluation. So we have to assess ourselves or evaluate ourselves in order to make an improvement in the training programs. And the next function, what we can see is that it values the knowledge and experience of adults and other local citizens in analyzing their economic, political, social and cultural reality. And the next purpose of participatory evaluation, that is to ensure the active participation of project beneficiaries who play a decisive role in the entire evaluation process. So we can see that the participation of every stakeholders in any training program is a necessary thing. And coming to the next purpose of participatory evaluation, we can see that the important thing, that is to promote the beneficiaries' ownership of educational and development programs and uses participatory methods of obtaining data and generating knowledge. And next one, what we can see is that to employ a wide range of predominantly qualitative methods and sometimes in combination with quantitative methods. So these are the purposes of this participatory evaluation. And when we move on further on the other aspects of participatory evaluation, we can see that this participatory evaluation, it is collective. It should be collective in nature and creates better and more in-depth and more accurate knowledge of the performance and impact of education and development intervention. And the next one, it is a way of learning from and with community members to investigate, analyze, evaluate the constraints, opportunities and make informed and timely decisions regarding the various programs that are adopted for the development of any capacities of adults in the training field. So we have seen up to this time why this participatory evaluation is necessary. And the next thing what we are going to discuss is how this monitoring and evaluation can be done. When we think of this monitoring and evaluation, there we can see that these two things, they are the processes of collecting and analyzing information in order to assess the effectiveness of the program components, including training processes and workshops, etc. So what type of training programs we are conducting. And this monitoring and evaluation is also important to know how that pre-decided objectives, whether it is able to achieve during the program. So whether the program is on good track or it is deviating from the pre-decided objectives. That is also important. And the next one, what we can see is that the monitoring and evaluation, it can be done on daily basis or weekly basis, or sometimes at the end of the program also. And coming to the next point, that is the characteristics of participatory evaluation. Here comes the importance of the 5 aspects. Number 1, shared control. Second one, developmental. Then awareness raising. Then empowering and mobilization. So let us think of these 5 aspects. That is, what do you mean by this shared control? Who is going to share? The sharing is taking place between the trainers as well as the learners. So the control of the training program, it is upon the learners and the trainers. And the second aspect, that is the developmental. How it becomes developmental is that during the training program, we are giving the opportunity for the learners to find out the difficulties, what they face on the part of the learners as well as on the part of the trainers, so that there we can make some kind of direction which denotes a path of developmental intervention. And coming to the next point, that is the awareness raising. What type of awareness we have to give? So the program, whether it is in the direction of raising awareness among the learners as well as the trainers, whether it is going in that way also we have to look into. And the next thing, that is the empowering. So this empowering is that we are giving opportunity for the learners, a methodology in which we are giving the opportunity for the learners to find out some new strategies to overcome the difficulties, so that it leads a kind of empowering among the learners. And the last one, that is mobilization. Mobilization, it is a kind of motivation to contribute to the further development of the training program. So then the next point what we are going to discuss is that why monitoring and evaluation is important. When we think of these aspects, 3 important points come in front of us. The first one, to improve the quality of the training. The second one, whether the objectives have achieved. The third one, plan future training programs. So here, what is this, the reason for this monitoring and evaluation? Or generally we may think that conducting of program is important. But more than that, the conducting implementation of program is important along with monitoring and evaluation. Then only we can find out whether the program is effective, what is there lagging behind to improve the effectiveness of the program, and what type of program we can implement in future, and during a program whether the objectives have achieved or not, or whether the objectives is going in one way and the program is going in another way. And the next thing what we are going to discuss is the evaluation process. And in this evaluation process, we will take 2 perspectives or 2 contexts, the context of the learners and the context of the training program. So let us see what is happening in the context of the learners. So here we can see that the first context of the learners, the first point is attitudinal change, second one behavioral changes, third conceptual development, and fourth the performance changes. So let us think about the attitudinal changes. After the program, whether there is a change in the attitude of the learners, that should be taken into account. Whether the second aspect, that is the behavioral changes. After attending or participating the program, whether the learners, there can be observed changes in the behavior of the learners. Whether they are going in a right track or they are in the same way only. So this type of changes we can observe after the evaluation process, during the evaluation process. And the third aspect, that is the conceptual development. So here the conceptual development, whether they have received the real knowledge, what is needed to develop during the training program, whether the concept has attained and they are able to meaningfully adopt that particular ideas of the training program in the real life context. And the last point, that is the performance changes. What is this performance changes is that whether there is any change in the performance of the learners after attending the training program, whether they are able to communicate effectively or they are able to convey or implement the real things in their performances. And coming to the next aspect, that is the evaluation process, and when we think in the context of training program, we can see is that the important thing, the training objectives, contents and training methods, group process, trainers, learning materials, physical environment. So here, when we think of the training objectives, whether the training objectives are realistic, whether the training objectives are relevant, so whether it is achievable or not, this should be taken into account. Second thing about the learning material, when we think of the learning material, we can see that whether the learning material is relevant, is it meaningful in the context, or it is relevant according to the content, or it is aligning with the objective. The next thing, that is the content and the training methods, whether the content are relevant according to the topic of the training program, and the materials that provided is according to the appropriate level and aligning with the content of the training program. And the next one, the trainers, whether the resource persons, they are productive, are effective, or able to communicate effectively during the training program. And the learning materials we have discussed, whether the materials are apt or not, or whether the materials are away from the meaningful communication that is needed in the training program. Then the physical equipment. Regarding the physical equipment, what is important is that whether there is enough space for the trainers to attend a particular training program, whether the learning environment is apt for conducting the training program. So this is an important thing when we think of the training program. So we have seen the evaluation process in the context of learner's perspective and in the context of the training program. And then we can see that in order to get the feedback, we can assign or rely on different sources. What are the sources? Different primary and secondary sources are available for getting the feedback. So regarding the primary sources, we can see that the learner himself or herself, it is a primary source. The colleagues or the participants, and the next one, the trainers or the instructors. And coming to the secondary sources, that the diary and the records, the reports of organizations. These are the secondary sources of the primary and secondary sources of feedback. So the learners itself, they are the real experiment persons, participants. So they are experiencing the changes, the programs. So their records, their diaries will reflect what type of experiences they got. And we know that nowadays this reflective diary is having a great importance, so that they can record whatever changes has happened or whatever expectations they have before attending the training program and undergoing the training program, what they have achieved and how it is relevant or not. And coming to the next point, that is the methods and techniques of this training program, or collecting the information of evaluation, how to collect the information of evaluation. There we can see there are different methods that and techniques that we can use. The one is the oral sharing, the second one questionnaire, and the next interview, then observation and records. So we know that this oral sharing can take place during the training program itself. We can give some parameters so that your trainers can tell some kind of their experiences based on the parameters. And another one, we can give the questionnaire, the closed-ended as well as the open-ended, so that they can reflect their ideas in the open-ended questionnaire, and the face-to-face interview will also give an opportunity, and the observation when the training is going on. Some notes the evaluator can make how the training program is going on, and the records like that, the reflective diary and reflective journal, such type of records can be gone through. And the next part regarding the monitoring and evaluation, we have to think about when we have to conduct the evaluation, what type of evaluation, how to conduct, and the process. So these four aspects are important. So when we think of this, when to conduct the evaluation, there comes the daily evaluation, the mid-training or the instruction, the post-training, and after a gap of the training also. So when we think of the daily evaluation, we can see that what are the things that is important. So what are coming there? There is the content will be there, the processes will be there, the session of classes, the flow, the logistic, and the language. And how we can find it that through the recap, through the large group discussion, the steering committee, a committee can be selected, and through observation also, and the process is monitoring only. But during the mid-training instruction, there we can see the process is monitoring as well as evaluation also. And what is happening is that the pace of learning, the group stages and design, and there how we are conducting is using questionnaire, the large group discussion with the different groups participants also we can do. And the next part, the post eval training or instruction. So how we will conduct the post training or instruction? So what is coming there is the achievement of objectives, the learning material and logistic, the trainers or instructors, and understanding awareness and skills development is coming. And how we can conduct, already we have discussed that the questionnaire, the large group discussion, and another thing that is the open space and standard consideration. So here the process is only evaluation, not monitoring. And coming to after some time of the training, how we can conduct the evaluation. There we can see the impact of the training or the instruction, the attitudinal and behavioral changes, the follow-up support, what is needed, or follow-up activity, what should be taking place. And how we can conduct the evaluation through field visit, the impact assessment study, organizing sessions, meetings, workshops, and here also the evaluation is coming important. And next we will discuss about the approaches to participatory evaluation. What are the different approaches? Here we can think of the four approaches, that is cost-benefit analysis, SWOT analysis, value-based analysis, and the capacity inventory checklist. So let us see one by one what is this cost-benefit analysis. So from the term itself, we will analyze the training program in terms of the expenditure, the money incurred, how much cost we have spent for that, and the benefits associated with a program or on an activity. And the next one, the SWOT analysis, there we can see that it stands for the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when we think of the strength and weaknesses, this represent the internal to the group conducting the analysis, and the threats and the opportunities, it is external in nature. It refers to opportunities and threats in the external environment. Why we are telling that the strength and the opportunities and the weaknesses, that is internal, that is a kind of the self-assessment. So it should come from the internal part only, within the individual. So within the program itself we have to analyze. Whereas the opportunities and the threats, that comes from the environment. So that is external in nature. So we will conduct in that way. And the next comes the value-based analysis. Here we are taking the program beneficiaries themselves determine which values of the standards against which the programs meant for them are evaluated. So the process of collectively getting the information, that is important in that. And next, the last aspect that is coming is that the capacity inventory checklist. So here, what is this capacity inventory checklist denote is that this approach begins with the assumption that people have knowledge and capacities or assets and working collectively. So they have their own assets and capacities. So this capacity inventory checklist is also another approach to this monitoring and evaluation. So hope that you might have understood about what is this evaluation, the curriculum evaluation, and why this curriculum evaluation is needed, what are the different approaches to participatory evaluation, and what are the different approaches that can be adopted in monitoring and evaluation, and when to evaluate, how to evaluate, and what all things can be done for the evaluation thing. So all these things we have covered in this session. Hope that you have understood that how the curriculum evaluation is relevant in any adult education program when it comes in the form of social action. Thank you.